I thought I'd do a quick video around the subject of the Hammond Organ gooey foam syndrome. For those that haven't come across it before, this is an issue that affects all Hammonds sort of post 1964, and is a potential sort of killer of these organs, really. Around about 1963, 64, well, so should I say prior to 1963, 64, Hammonds used a felt strip in the manuals of the organs as a dust protector. And about 1963, 64, they had the bright idea of saying, instead of the felt, which they riveted in place and was obviously quite time consuming, they'd put in some sticky back foam to do the same job, which probably looked great at the time. But unfortunately, 40 years on from then, the foam has chemically deteriorated and tends to attack the very fine wires, resistance wires in the manuals, and in fact eats right the way through them. So you start getting dropouts, different tones across the organ will start dropping out, and it's a heck of a job to repair, and very time consuming, therefore very costly. So the ideal thing really is to get this foam out, regardless of whether it started attacking the wiring or not, as a precaution, because it's only a question of time before it does. So here we have some manuals upside down, so they're a bit hard to see, from a Hammond D100. This is the same sort of manuals you get in a C3 or a B3. And we'll have a quick look at this. I'll take a bit of footage of the foam so people can see the extent of the problem, just so you're aware of it. Okay, so I'll do a bit more dismantling and get the covers off the manuals, and I can show the problem. Say that one of the ways you can have a quick look and a check to see whether you might have the foam in the manual is to, when the manuals are in the organ, you can just lift the manual slightly and take a peek in here at the left hand end, which is where you got the preset keys, and just take a peek in at the edge here. And unfortunately I haven't got my close-up lens on the camera, but in this gap you'll be able to see the foam, so we'll get a light on it so we can see it. Okay, so with the torch, and you can just about see the granulated foam sitting at the back edge of the manual there. I haven't got a close-up lens on this thing, so that's basically sitting in here. Okay, so we've got the bar off that was holding the manuals in place. I'm now going to try and ease the cover off the manual, which is always fun and games. I have to do this very carefully in order not to break any more resistance wires, because the foam actually, now here we can see, you may not be able to see, bits of foam starting to fall off because it's deteriorated, it's falling out even as I'm lifting this slightly. Trying to do this without unsoldering the lower manual harness, but if it gets too difficult I might just have to anyway. So I'm trying to lift it away as gently as possible, trying not to rip it off and rip manual wires as I go, because it will be stuck to some of the manual wires probably. Okay, so you can see here, this is where we were looking in the end of the manuals up near the preset wires, and you can see the bits of foam fallen in there. And here we are, it sticks along the whole of the back of the manual there. And the idea was you'll see the resistance wires, the fine resistance wires, going through some little slots down to the actual contacts for each key. And the idea really was that this foam strip would stop dust going in there. Hence it went all the way along the back. The problem is, of course, that as the foam digs into that and has deteriorated, it now sticks to all those manual wires, and here's a wonderful case in point where it has eaten into it, started to make a horrible mess. And I'm going to put a magnifying glass on it just so you can see a little bit more clearly, hopefully. Here we go. Quality is probably a bit yucky, but you'll see lots of green, which is where the foam itself has attacked the lacquer. These fine resistance wires are coated in a lacquer, and it starts off by coming into contact with those wires, attacks the lacquer, and you get this sort of green, sort of bobbly appearance, and then finally eats through the wire itself because it's only very fine, and hey presto, you've lost the tone. So you can see the scale of the problem with the amount of wires that we have in there, and this foam is highly corrosive, so it all needs to come out and be cleaned very, very thoroughly. I'll just get a zoom in again with that, and you can get some idea of scale. I'll put a pin there maybe. Here's a pin by comparison to the wiring. See the pin there, and the size of the manual resistance wires. Very, very fine. And of course that's only the top one manual, that's the lower manual. There is also then the upper manual, will be exactly the same. And this is in all Hammond organs after about 1963-64, so if you've got a Hammond and you haven't been aware of this problem before, you need to know about it, and have this foam removed if you want to keep it for another 40 years. So there we go, that's the problem, and as I dig in a bit more and clean up, I can perhaps show some of that as well. Here's the back of the casing. Now it's all removed from the manual, just to give you an idea, and you can see the back of the strip has been left behind there along. Some of the foam's still sticking to it. It's in one long strip all the way down. Interestingly, there's also this chunk of foam here, which I don't find on all of them. It just seems to be around the preset keys area. Most of it seems to have fallen into the preset keys area. Horrible mess. And there you can see the back of each individual contacts, 9 contacts for each bus bar for each key. This is also, I should also say that you get organs around 1963-64, around the changeover period, that actually you can get foam in one of the manuals, either the upper or the lower, and still got the old felt in the other one, so you get the sort of crossover period around that time when sometimes you can find a mix, and I found that in more than one organ now, so that's something to be aware of. You might be lucky and only have to do one manual if you've got one around that period, but any time after that it'll be in both manuals, so yep, tough.